Thanks to an insightful comment I got a few days ago. I actually went and checked out this movie called When Trumpets Fade. We follow a disgruntled private who climbs the ladder going from private to lieutenant in 3 days. And if you know anything about meritorious promotions, that's pretty unheard of. It's unheard of to get one to begin with enlisted, but commissioned, that's a whole nother story. According to the commenter, this movie flew under the radar because it released around the same time Saving Private Ryan did, which I would totally believe. In the first few opening scenes in this movie, where the two were running back, I assumed this was going to be like a George and Lenny scenario, which it kind of is, but I thought it would follow the pair of them for the entire movie. It doesn't, actually. My expectations were subverted, but I thought that's how it was going to go. Anyway, our little private gets promoted to sergeant, and then he takes over his own squad. Some of them don't make it, and, well, rinse and repeat a couple more times, and that's the end of the movie. Despite wanting to get sent back at every possible opportunity, Sergeant Manning definitely rises to the occasion, in more ways than one. One of the new guys that comes in, Warren Sanderson, I think his name is, we kind of center on him a little bit too. After the first couple encounters, and he doesn't die, well, I just assumed we were just going to follow up with him. It was going to be a little bit more centric to him, and it is in the end. Whenever Manning gets wounded and Sanderson has to take him back, it's a callback to the beginning because, well, I don't think Sandy is going to shoot him, actually. I think he's a bit too kind-hearted for that, but he does die in the end. So he's spared getting shot, as he would have done it himself. Some of the scenes in this movie are a little bit longer. For example, one such scene that would come to mind is them crawling through the barbed wire and disarming the mines, which I understand you want to make them longer. You want to have the audience feel that emotion, that tension. You want them to know, oh, well, shit's serious. But in my opinion, it felt like it dragged on just a little bit too long, but that's really my only criticism of this movie. I don't think there are any big names in it. I didn't recognize any. The guy who plays Pritchard, Captain Pritchard, for some reason he reminds me of Mr. Krabs' voice actor, the guy who also voice acted the detective in Detroit Become Human. But I think that's just facial features. I might be wrong, though, because this is from the 90s. I might be wrong. And let me just say, despite it being from the 90s, it looks very well made. The quality in some of the shots is really great. It's amazing. The score is, it's nothing spectacular, but I did like a few bits of it. It was nothing compared to the previous film I watched. That score was just amazing. That soundtrack, it didn't even really, it didn't even fit for a war movie, but somehow it did. This comes a little bit more to the war genre, I would say, than that one. However, that's not a bad thing. I just mean that the tone, the feel, it comes a little bit closer. Not to mention the name of the movie. You basically gotta have trumpets in the soundtrack with that name. Now, to be honest, this movie is a little bit shorter. It's only 90 minutes. I would say, in my opinion, a film is really truly short when it's only over an hour long. Maybe an hour 10, hour 20 minutes. That's probably pretty short in my opinion. However, I feel like that is the average for movies. Unless you're looking at a director's cut that's, 3 hours and 30 minutes like, Peter Jackson does. Or the Apocalypse Now director's cut version. Some movies really are just way too long. I don't mind length like that. I'm just saying there is a huge range for movies like this. There's a lot of variety and depth you can have. But sometimes it is important to have things short too. It's important to know when enough is enough. Anyways, if you're a fan of giving underdogs the spotlight, this film is definitely for you. It's remarkable. It really is sad to see it going under the radar in so many ways. But I am glad that people have heard of it to give me that recommendation to watch it because I was pleasantly surprised. According to IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, they've both given it a 7 out of 10 and a 74% respectively, which is interesting. I feel like 7 out of 10 is a pretty good rating. I would give it maybe a 7.5 or an 8, so I would agree more with the Rotten Tomatoes score rather than IGN, but that's just nitpicking. And according to the end credits, this film is just a dedication to Hyrcan Forest and how, according to historians, that the sacrifice was unneeded. 24,000 lives were lost for an endeavor that really, well, like there was no point, no strategy. Like there was nothing to be gained from doing this, but they did it anyway. 24,000 might not sound like a lot to somebody who's doing this daily, weekly, somebody who has to do this shit on the regular, but for the average person, 24,000 is a lot. 2,400 is a lot. None would be better, but we can't think that way. Another thing this film likes to do is cover the topic of deserters, but that was a recurring theme throughout the movie. New, inexperienced guys, recruits basically that just came in, they're fresh, they're replacements. They replace a bull. That is the entire point. They really just wanted to hammer that in, especially with the desertion, having to get executed by their own guys, which, didn't really happen much for us, but I'm not going to say it didn't happen at all. I would say that's a thing other countries mostly would do. Not really us, though. However, it is definitely cool to see something different. It's refreshing in a way. Now, for those of you that have been following my little series about going on about forgotten films, how they fly under the radar, how they haven't been watched or seen, or just like anything in that degree in that area, and you want to give them a shout out or say, oh well, you know what, actually this movie kind of reminds me of this one, or this is another one like that didn't really ever receive much attention, throw it my way. Say a comment about it, mention it. I read all my comments, so if you want to throw it out there and you feel like it's at least within the ballpark, actually, it doesn't even have to be within the ballpark. As long as it's received little attention, like it hasn't gotten coverage, and you feel passionate enough about it to throw me a bone, then go for it, man. I'll check it out. It doesn't. It's kind of a coincidence, honestly, that everything I've been covering so far has been in the war genre. That really is all it is. It's just a coincidence so far. I'm open to receiving anything, watching anything, doing anything. So long as it has some sort of substance, of course. Some reviews may be longer or shorter than others depending on the movie, the source material, how much I can get out of it, how much, I don't know, depth there is, and so on. For example, if there's just more around it, like an interview or like a comments, ratings, anything I can go off of, then I will more likely than not include it. To be 110% transparent, I almost kind of like the 90s vibe we got going on. It's like we're on a roll. It's funny. I wonder what else is out there. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, until next time.